before. However, this time she's coming to us to talk about her life as a new mom and how her role as a functional nutritionist had helped her prepare for pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum. So welcome back, Lauren. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, and I've been wanting to have it for a while. So the fact that we're making it happen is awesome. As a caveat, if shit hits the fan with technology, I am on vacation in Spain. I'm drinking all the Spanish wine, and Lauren is in Arizona drinking her water. So, 9 a.m. here. At least you're consistent. I appreciate that about you. All right, let's talk a little bit about your fourth trimester experience. How has this been for you so far?
Yeah, I would say like it's a whirlwind, like I did a lot to prepare, I feel like, but nothing fully prepares you for what you go through,
That's fair.
It's just like such a crazy experience, it's like so many different emotions, so much healing, so much newness, so much, and it's all consuming. Like, I think in the beginning, like you're just given this baby and you're like, oh, what do I do with this? And then you've got all these people coming to visit and helping you, and you've got these doctors visits, and you've got, lactation consultants and all these people like, trying to kind of teach you. And then you've got all these opinions and all of these things that you've got to manage. You've got to feed yourself. You've got to feed the baby. You've got to learn how to feed the baby, and it's kind of a lot. Like I feel like it took me the full 3 months of the fourth trimester to really like hone it all in,
Did you run into any issues with like breastfeeding, like latch or tongue ties or anything like that?
Yeah.
Was there any surprises?
That was the only issue we had. Like I didn't have any issues. I had a rough first trimester, but other than that, like second trimester, third trimester, delivery, all of those things were great. But he came out with a tongue tie, and the midwife said it was like the worst they'd ever seen. So he had to go get that fixed like the next day because he couldn't eat.
Wow.
Right. Like he couldn't, his tongue was just stuck in it.
Wow.
He couldn't even stick it out at all, which was shocking to me. Like, I had heard about tongue ties. I knew they were like a thing. And I always thought like, oh, I would do whatever natural thing I could do. There's like myofascial release and all these like chiropractic things that you could do. But he literally could not eat or swallow or do anything properly. So latching was an issue. We had to like feed him, all kinds of stuff. So we went and got that fixed when he was like 1 or 2 days old. And then he did great after that. We definitely had some latch issues because he didn't get on right away. He didn't know what to do right away. We went through like a nipple shield and all the things. Now it's like, now he jumps on, no problem. In the beginning was a challenge. Some like you hear moms talk about like, oh, he just popped on the boob right away and there was no issue. And instinctively know how to do it, and I feel like he didn't have that, so it was for sure.
Oh, it's funny, like there's so many things you didn't know you needed to know. Ha ha ha. I say that all the time. And in a way it's like great to have friends who've had kids or something like that, but like then it's almost like you're trying to find like be on the prowl for like what could go wrong, what I mean? But if someone didn't tell you or you didn't research it or whatever, like you're like, oh, I can't breastfeed, like game over, when really it's not a you problem, it's a baby problem. And it is very easy to rectify.
Well, it's
for the fact that you could just
stuff can happen. And like you're saying, like you don't know what you don't know. So luckily I had like very experienced midwives, and I could be like, he won't go on my right breast. He'll only go on the left. What the hell? And they're like, oh, he needs chiropractic. One visit to the chiropractor, they literally just like poke a little finger in his spine somewhere. They don't, it's not the full adjustment or anything. And suddenly he had no problem. It's like, I would have never thought, I would think shape, smell, a million other things before I thought, oh, he just can't turn his neck that way, So
Yeah. That's crazy. I got Declan adjusted a couple of days after. I'd never been to a chiropractor until I was pregnant.
oh, really?
But working in hospitality, yeah, never. My back was just a mess, like my sciatica. And I mean, it still is just in general, because that's 20 years in hospitality, then whatever, blah, blah. And thank God I was seeing one, and she was like one of those cranial sacral specialists as well, and Webster Technique certified, which is something that people need to go to if they're pregnant, is someone who specializes in pregnant women. But Declan was vacuumed out, so he had a cone head. So doctors will put one of those like helmet things on the baby.
Yeah.
But the skull is so malleable once they that's why you have to hold the baby's head. That you can reshape it. So there's the crazy. So there's like the picture of him when he's first born with his little cone head.
Yeah.
And then now it's this perfectly beautiful,
How many visits did
finessed
you have to
skull.
go to for that?
Like 2 or 3.
That's amazing.
But had I not gone to this chiropractor
Who knows?
beforehand,
Shaped.
who knows how his head would have shaped, and how many specialists would it have taken me?
Yeah.
But really, it was very simple. I was like, do we overcomplicate things here? I don't know.
And like those things, I don't know. It's like not old technology and it's not new technology, but it's like not widely used, really. It's still kind of like quackery. And so if people only knew like just how simple like these, this stuff could, the simple tasks you could do in order to achieve big things with these babies is wild.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be so convoluted, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. What surprised you most about your pregnancy, and to follow that up with postpartum so far?
I'm a first-time mom, so
I'm drinking for both of us. Don't worry.
very naive about a lot of things, right? So I would say the first thing was just how much work it really was, like especially in the beginning. I'm thinking like, oh, you pop out this little baby and then they just sleep all day. You feed them and they sleep and then you change a diaper, and it's really like easy. It's not easy. It's like I was shocked at how hard it was just to like feed my dog, like go out and water my plants, just like basic tasks that would normally take 1 second. It's like all of a sudden, okay, you got to put down the baby. The second you put down the baby, he starts crying, or like, you go to feed yourself and all of a sudden tears, whatever, it was just crazy to me how just the smallest things became so monumental and how much help you like actually really needed. I was really like fortunate that I took the time to like prepare meals ahead of time, and was pretty strategic about how I like timed visitors, and I allowed people to help me, which is not something I'm used to. It was still like, holy cow, I'm way over my head, And then I would say the second thing was like how much I like reconnected to my femininity, like I just like,
Interesting. I like that.
I love to make money. Like I love to like, kind of be in that like go mode. And I feel like it just softened me so much. Like I'm not an overly emotional person. Now all of a sudden I cry at absolutely everything. Like literally I was watching a Friends episode last night where Ross had his baby for the first time, right? And full on waterworks. It's like, sad tears. It's all the same. Like so emotional.
Yeah.
And like I just think your priorities change so much. Like, and I truly love my work. I love what I do. But I found myself not as eager to go back to work as I anticipated. I thought, oh, I'll fully be back by January. I gave birth in November. And here we are in March, and I'm like, okay, I should probably get back to work. Like, But when
You'll get there.
priorities just shift, like all of a sudden it's like nothing else in the world matters except for how can you give this little thing everything he needs, you know? So I think those are the biggest surprises for me.
I think that's how a lot of moms feel too. It's like even if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, it's like there's still this little organism that needs you and wants you. And, you know, even if you're just running a little podcast, like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I really just need to stop. And 812 things don't get done. They just don't. And I do think it's different for men and women. I think men, my husband just walked into the room as I said that. He's like, what's she gonna say? He's waiting. He's loitering. I think that men tend to try to produce more, like more money, more of this, more of that. In the first year and a half that Declan was born, my husband had like 2 promotions. And then for me, I'm just like taking care. Like, I don't know if this is a good topic. I think I didn't have this innate sense of like love and devotion. I had this insane need to be protective, like that stereotypical mama bear when my son was born. And I have other friends who were like, I just was this euphoria of love and da 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 da. And I was like, no, I was just going to cut somebody if they crossed me. So I don't know. And I want to ask, like, what was your experience in like the first couple of months? Like, was it love and affection, or was it like, I will cut you?
I will cut you. But I'm not totally sure that I was like fully in the like obsessive love either.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think so many people are like, oh my God, that baby came out and just like, I just immediately felt so overwhelmed with how much love I had. And like that baby came out and I was like, can you stop twiddling down there? Like, leave my crotch alone. You know, like you're not like, it's not as like fairy tale-esque as you would imagine, I guess. And I think in the beginning, like my hormones were just so all over the place. Like I was just so emotional over everything. Like we had our nieces come out and visit, you know. Is everything okay?
Yeah. I was spilling wine. So sorry.
So we had our nieces.
Your nieces I'm listening.
What's happening? Yeah, they came out and, you know, they're 2-year-olds. They're running around and I just couldn't handle it. I was just like, oh my God, this is chaos and I cannot handle it. I was just trying everything I could to just like get a grasp on this new reality, you know, like, I just feel like I was just overwhelmed, you know, just like, holy shit. Like there's so many things, you know, so many things. Now I would say I'm definitely in the like overly like loving, protective, devoted, like I just want my baby all the time. Like, and I really didn't expect that. I thought I would be like, you know, okay, like I love my child obviously, but like we'll have someone else do like daycare stuff and like, you know, he won't like sleep in our bed or any of these things and all that goes out the window. You're like, oh no. I actually want my baby with me all the time.
That's something that surprised me about myself is even as Declan's gotten older, and I think it's because we were talking about this call, like the travel that we do as a family. And I know you're an avid traveler. You've been to a hell of a lot more countries than I have been. But like, I think because of our travel, we have let certain things go out the window because we kind of have to like get through the day, you know, like, so Declan sleeps with us a lot more than I would care to admit.
Yeah.
But equally, he spent a lot of time in hotel rooms with mommy, daddy, where we're very close to him in the bed next door and he can just pop up and see us and then go back to sleep. So at home, when he doesn't have that security with him.
Yeah.
So I think it's funny to bring that up because you could read all the books and this is my boundary. I'm setting a firm line. And then your child gets there and you're like, Anna, he needs to feel safe and secure.
Yeah.
So and even like this morning exactly. That's the most important thing. This morning in Spain, he wakes up. I heard him and I heard him whimpering. I was like, oh shit, did he wet the bed? Crap. He's like, no, I'm by myself, mommy. I said, well, come in here with me, kid,
Yeah.
Comes in, hits the pillow, out.
Yeah.
Just wanted that security. And it's like, how is that wrong?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'll get there eventually.
Like, he's still in a bassinet in our room, and I will leave him in there for the majority of it. And now he's finally sleeping through the night. God bless.
Ooh.
Yeah. But he'll wake up at like 5:36 and like, then he's awake. But if I just bring him into bed with me and we do like a little side-lying breastfeed session, then he passes right out and then we can all sleep for another couple hours. So, it's like, you just gotta find what works for you. And like, that was, like you said, you could read all the books, you could follow the plans, you can do all the things, but all that stuff goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Reality hits. And my husband and I are not routine people. Like, I have like my things that I do every day to like keep my health in check, my mental health in check, productivity, all the things.
Right.
But like, that's like a checklist. It's not like we do this and then this and then this and then this in order. And you read all these books that say like, that's what kids need. But like, my kid's awesome. He doesn't follow any kind of routine. He sleeps through the night. Like, he'll go to bed. Like, he's taking a nap in his crib right now, so it's really just a matter of like finding what works for you and what works for your kid and making sure that they feel comfortable. And then, then you can kind of finagle like how you get there, I think.
Absolutely. I think that's true. Like, our life has always revolved around travel. Like, my husband, his former job was a lot of U.S. travel, and now his job is a lot of international travel. So there's no point in us trying to keep a certain routine when we are in a different country.
Yeah.
And
time zones change.
The time zones change. Like, last night we were having dinner at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And Declan slept until 10 a.m. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because the culture where we are is you don't go to dinner till 8:30 at the earliest. And even then you're early. So it's all like, and I think sometimes like people make excuses, but like, we knew that travel was going to be something that's important to us. So, and we want to share that with him.
Yeah.
And well, you know what? You got to make concessions sometimes. So there it is.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, that was like, even still, like, I'm reading a book right now about like sleep training and stuff because he's not doing regular naps, like sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's on me, sometimes it's not, and I try to like get the theory behind it all and then sort of figure out how I can put it into practice rather than like following a template exactly, because it just doesn't always work.
Well, and what do you and your husband need? How does that look? What do your days look like?
Yeah.
Declan, for us, he fell into a very routine pattern right away, and it was really easy. But not all babies are like that. Some babies have digestion issues or whatever, and like, because they have colic, like, usually, contrary to popular belief, colic is a symptom of something deeply rooted, like, and people are trying, like, for example, I didn't know this until I became a mom, but like, babies can't digest lactose. So you giving them a cow's milk formula usually causes some kind of digestive disruption because they can't process the enzyme. So then a lot of times babies will have colic. So if you're a formula feeding parent and you're using a cow's milk based one, most likely your kid's going to have issues because of said thing until they're at least 6 months old. No one tells you that. No one effing tells you that. But all these products are made at
the grocery store, Target, or whatever to buy a formula. Like, you're definitely not getting anything good quality. You know, there's just nothing available at like a
Uh-huh.
grocery store or Target or whatever. And then, you know, we're just like, that's what's available to you. And so you assume that this would be formulated for a baby. And then all of a sudden you're like, how the heck does he have so many problems? But we went through something similar. You know, I breastfeed, but I also supplement with formula. I got like this great organic cow's milk formula from Germany, you know, because US has different standards than Europe does. And he still had issues. He was still having tummy troubles. He was getting like the baby acne, you know, like a lot of these standard symptoms that babies have that we all think is normal. And as soon as I switched him over to goat milk, gone. No.
Done. Right? Because I bet no one told you, or you didn't even know to think that cow's milk formula base, whether it was like German or American, is not the best thing for your baby. But no one tells you that.
Yeah.
No one fucking tells you that.
And even with my background, like I knew there would be issues. That's why I really hoped I wouldn't have to use formula. But it's like, okay, well, what else do you do? You know, your baby's got to eat, producing enough, or you've got, you know, whatever lifestyle factors that are affecting this. Like, what do? You know, you just have to give them what's available. So, you know, I feel really fortunate that I had that background to like recognize what digestive issues looked like, even for a baby who I don't know how to take care of, you know, but like I could, this is what humans go through when they've got issues. So where as a doctor would have told me, you know, just keep doing it, maybe try a different brand, you know, and that's not the problem. It's like the ingredients in all of them that he can't process. So
yes, and that's the thing that blows my fucking mind is like, why do we just allow this stuff to perpetuate? Like, because fuck, I wish I would have known that's what you were doing, because I would have told you, I don't know, 6 months ago, hey, if you ever have to supplement, don't use these brands, because I did all this research and I couldn't figure out why X, Y, and Z was happening. And then I realized, oh God, babies don't digest cow's milk until they're at least 6 months old.
Yeah. And then you can get those like sensitive versions or whatever, you know, where they like separate the proteins and they, you know, but it's hyper processed. So is your kid even getting good nutrition at that point? Or are you just filling their belly with filler, you know?
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's like just give them rice milk or something. Yeah, so we use the like Holly, right? The Holly ones, HOLLE, and we got the goat's milk ones. And then we found, as Declan got older, we used to supplement the Cabrita brand goat's milk until so that one's a little bit more pocket friendly. So not as expensive as the German ones.
They're not cheap.
So they're not cheap at all. That's the other thing. Babies are expensive. So this is a perfect way to bring up your career and your profession. How has your ability for nutrition and your background as a functional nutritionist, how does that help support you in pregnancy and postpartum?
Oh man. I mean, it affected every aspect. Truly, every aspect, from how I chose prenatal care. You know, I didn't take prenatal vitamins. Like, I knew how to supplement in a different kind of way. It affected the way I eat. It affected what I fed my kid, you know, just my theories on how to go about doing all of the things that you need to do with a new baby. You know, it affected what I chose for my delivery. You know, it affected absolutely every area, and in a positive way. I feel like, you know, I didn't have the standard issues that most women have. You hear these horrible stories about, you know, I had this awful pregnancy, and then I had this like super often traumatic birth, and then I had super painful recovery, or I had a C-section or whatever. Like, I didn't have any of that. You know, I didn't get the diabetes. I didn't get any of the diagnoses. I didn't get the pains, you know, and I really, truly feel that while every pregnancy is, you know, different, every body is different. You could even the same, like my next pregnancy could be totally different. But I would never risk not doing the things that I did for myself, for my baby. I would never risk not doing that again, because it's hard to say like those things were the catalyst for a perfect pregnancy, delivery, recovery.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't risk it,
What was your meal planning like? What kinds of foods did you eat? 'Cause I'm curious because I had a really easy after the first trimester. I was just nauseous the whole time and had chronic migraines every week. I had a 2-3 day migraine. It was awful. But after that, I was just waddling around.
Yeah.
And I was happy and fine, and I ate a lot of avocado toast. Really good, right? So I'm just interested, like, what did your nutrition look like, just generally?
I would say I really didn't eat much different than I normally did. I really tried to emphasize like high quality proteins, high quality fat, as much like produce as
Makes
I
sense.
could. I started consuming a lot more dairy, I would say. And like, I tried to get like raw or organic or whatever. I would really try not to eat any conventional. But that was kind of a shock for me because I just didn't consume all that much dairy prior. But I think it really helped increase my caloric need, like full caloric needs. And also I think sometimes those are easier to digest than like the meat proteins, and so when you're really queasy, like I'd put cheese rather than like a meat thing maybe. But like I would say first trimester was totally different. I ate so many more carbs. Like I'd still try to balance with proteins and fats and things, but there would be days where all I ate was freaking tater tots and I'd just like have some like yogurt dip with some like hot sauce in it to make it somewhat healthy, like you do whatever you can in the first trimester. But after that, I feel like I just ate the same as I normally did. High quality proteins, high quality fats, lots of produce, and like keeping any of the junk stuff to a minimum. Because, for me, it's like, okay, I am so aware of how food affects my body and affects my clients' body, people in general. And these are the building blocks for your baby going forward, how you eat now will affect every aspect of their life going forward. And so I just really tried to keep that in the forefront of my mind, like just be cautious,
Did you have any cravings in particular besides the cheese thing?
No, I had none.
No.
Like aside from craving a little bit more of the like carbohydrates type stuff, I didn't have any. And I really think that's a testament to like good quality nutrition. Like maybe I craved ice cream a little more, probably because I wasn't drinking and I didn't, you have like no vices at that point. So it's like, oh, ice cream. But even then, like I'd still try to get good quality, like we probably went to Dairy Queen more times than I'd like to admit, but that was like
good though.
Most of it, really. Like I was really pretty cautious and didn't have much in terms of like I never had like the ravenous need or like, my body's like demanding something. It was just like, oh yeah, ice cream sounds good. Whereas before, like I could give a shit about ice cream,
Oh yeah. Oh no, I love ice cream. I try to keep it out of the house for obvious reasons. And potato chips and Cheez-Its. Can't have them because I will eat the whole box. But that's not even with pregnancy situations. That's just me as a human. But I had like, I we must have had similar experiences because I was the same way. I ate my avocado toast. I think twice I had like a whole box of like macaroni and cheese, like the Annie's like organic. Not that that's much healthier than like the Kraft version. Don't let me mislead anybody. But yeah, mine was not, I don't think grass fed. It was the Annie's organic one, but it's still not great for you. I ate like a whole, like twice. And then I was like, one day I was like, I really need a chocolate chip cookie. Like I need a fresh baked shot. And that was it. And I was like, you got off so easy. And what pissed me off, this is a caveat, is that my husband didn't have his American license at the time. So I had to drive myself to the store, and then I made him go in and get me a chocolate chip cookie.
Oh,
I was like, I can't even have a craving.
too much work.
But
To have a craving.
it was too much work. But in retrospect, now it's funny. In the moment, I was like 8 months pregnant and annoyed, but it's fine. But whatever.
Yeah.
So, what nutritional advice would you give other women, pregnant moms, or even taking it a step further, women trying to conceive? Because I feel like nutrition plays a lot into our ability to be ripe for conception.
Yeah. I mean, it affects everything. Egg quality, sperm quality, you know, how that egg develops, how your body
Amen.
prepares to implant that egg, you know, it'll affect how it grows, everything. And so to me, it's like, okay, we could go into specifics about, you know, how to get more folate into your diet and why you should be consuming folate versus, you know, consuming folic acid in the form of a supplement. But truly, I don't think any of that really matters, because most people aren't addressing the foundational stuff, like keeping your blood sugar stable, which means increasing your proteins, increasing your high quality fat, you know, consuming a lot of fiber and eating good produce, you know, getting like the good carbohydrate, like complex carbs, you know, like a sweet potato and stuff like that. Like if you just a whole food diet most of the time, you reduced the junk foods, you know, you really reduced the alcohol, all of those things, you'd be so better off than so many people out there. There's a really, really good book called Real Food for Pregnancy by Lily Nichols. And I would say like everyone should eat that way, but if you are going to be carrying a child, and then like feeding that child from your body, like you require so many nutrients. That is so physically demanding, nutritionally demanding, energetically demanding, cognitively demanding, you know, and you don't have those nutrition stores to be able to give your body what it needs in order to perform these tasks. You know, your body will take whatever it needs in order to give it to the baby, but then what are you left with? You know, so you with like crazy postpartum depression and, you know, like really tough recovery, like really struggling with like C-section scars and, you know, their pelvic floor never fully recovers. Like all of these things, I feel like could really be minimized by getting the proper nutrition. And you know, like maybe you wouldn't have as many of these like digestive issues and, you know, I don't know, sleep issues, like all of these things can be tied to nutrition. Not necessarily a direct correlation always, but it's absolutely going to benefit you, you know?
Yeah, I think my biggest vice is wine. So, which really impacts everything that you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean,
all the things.
Stuff like that too. Like if you know, like if you already have an incredibly damaged gut, let's say, you know, your health is horrible, your digestion is horrible, you've got like really bad constipation, you know, you're not great with your hydration stuff, you kind of eat whatever you want. Like all of this is going to then just stack the, you know, like fill up this stress bucket in your body. And then let's say you add on the alcohol or whatever you're doing to kind of cope with like this new lifestyle or whatever it is. And all of a sudden shit hits the fan, you know, your like stress bucket is overflowing and your body starts to freak out and it can't adapt as well, you know? So I feel like no matter what, you know, focusing on your nutrition, eating well, balancing your blood sugar, hydrating, all of those things, you know, movement, stress reduction, all of those things can really contribute to you being more resilient and you having a better experience and you being set up in a much better way, you know?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And I feel like for my pregnancy and postpartum, I did a really good job accidentally. I craved avocado toast.
Yeah.
I craved like tomatoes and cheese for breakfast. What? I mean, those are my favorite things anyway. So I was like, okay, here we go. But I think other people who might be craving like donuts or something like that, it just sets you up for a longer journey back to yourself. And I would say, like, for me, as a caveat, like, my body is not what it was 5 years ago when I got pregnant. Like, and it may never be that. But I also know, like, I was diagnosed with PCOS and I was told I couldn't have kids. And I got pregnant when I was working at True Food Kitchen and eating a very
whole food diet.
Clean, whole food diet. Like, and ever since we've started like talking again too, I try so hard to have like sweet potatoes a few times a month. Like, I swear to God, like I love a potato, and so I'll even do like air fried potatoes. Like, it's probably not the best way to have sweet potatoes, but like, just even as like chips or something, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm like, I love a sweet potato, but like I was so spoiled working in restaurants to having things like done for me that I do it myself, and it takes time, and I'm trying to do all these other things, which I feel like is something we should highlight as moms and entrepreneurs. It's like sometimes it's hard to get what you need for yourself and what your baby needs, like, or your kids or your family needs. It's hard sometimes to make that happen.
Me who like loves to cook, you know, I'm home, like I have all of the tools to be able to prepare meals for myself. I still am ordering meals delivered to me. So I know that like if all shit hits the fan, I at least have like one solid meal in the fridge that I could go get. Takes, 7 minutes to put it in the oven, or 3 if I'm desperate and want to put it in the microwave. Like, it's a lot to manage all of the things that you have to do for yourself, for your child, and then on the nutritional side of things, but it's worth it, like, like I said, like I was just so fortunate that I had the information that I had, the knowledge that I had, because in the beginning, like when your body is just under so much stress, like all you can do is consume these basic carbohydrates just to keep yourself going, like me adding in like that little bit of yogurt with my tater tots helped keep my blood sugar more stable, and therefore I wasn't going off the deep end with like craving the extra sugary stuff. I never had like the, oh my God, I need a donut kind of thing. I could easily be like, oh no, that's probably not the most supportive for me, but I can find something that, is easily consumed, easy to prepare, has a little bit more nutritional value, because I know how important that is, not only for myself, but for my baby.
Absolutely. So how was your delivery experience, and how did your nutritional background help prepare for that part of, that inception of motherhood?
I did a home birth with midwives.
Ooh,
I didn't do in the hospital. And like a huge part of that was that I didn't want all the medical interventions, but I also wanted to be able to eat in labor. Like I knew how important that would be for my energy, for my focus, for my ability to have stamina, all of these things. And it ended up that I went into labor at midnight on a Friday, and then I'm like, just trying to sleep for hours. And then that next day when I was in the thick of it, I didn't even want food. I had no hunger whatsoever.
Interesting.
Luckily, my husband was like force feeding me a few things. And when the midwives could tell I was losing stamina, so I would say in terms of that, like I knew, okay, if my body is not craving like a full meal, it's under stress. It can't process all of these. So I need something simple that's going to give me quick energy. So like I pre-prepared with honey sticks, and I had these like chia seed pouch kind of things, like you would feed a baby. I had like those little cutie tangerines, like basic, simple stuff that I could consume. So that was helpful. But I think mostly it was like an indirect help, because I because my nutritional stores were so good, my body could handle a time of fasting, you know, and it
Oh,
going into these like, oh, I'm so exhausted, I can't do it. I never reached that point, and I think because my body had what it needed to be able to keep going without even having those meals, you know?
yeah, I'm kind of envious of that.
Yeah, I was shocked because I really thought like, okay, I'd need all the hydrating fluids and I'd need all of the foods in order to keep me going.
Yeah.
Your your brain and your body are in such a different place that it's hard. For me, it was hard to even want those things.
Wow.
But
That's a good
then,
point.
there was stuff too that I did to prepare. Like I ate a shit ton of dates or like Lara bars because they have a ton of dates in them. I took like primrose oil and I took this like weird herbal concoction, all of these things to be able to like soften my cervix and, do all of the things for your uterus to be able to contract appropriately. And I really think that helped with my delivery because I hear these horror stories of people that like your body just didn't open up enough. It just didn't do what it needed to do. And mine did exactly what it needed to do. Even as a first time mom giving birth, almost by myself at home, like I labored for 17 hours, just me and my husband. And then the midwives came in and that baby was here within an hour and a half. So
Wow.
like to be able to have that experience as a first time mom, like I can't fathom a situation in which that would have been possible had I had a shitty diet, or had I just not had the information or tools that I already had.
Or if you were in a more traditional like hospital setting, like I labored for 16 and I pushed for a couple and then they were like, because they only let you push for so long in a hospital, which I didn't know this till after the fact. And I was like, yeah, vacuum that fucker out. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not getting
anything you need to do.
And I get it. Like, C-sections are essential to save mom baby all the time. But if you look at the numbers, like a lot of times people just default to C-sections because they're more money and doctors can plan for that. Yeah. They cannot plan for when your vagina is going to open and your cervix is going to ripen. So we just need to call that out in general, which makes like midwives and doulas just that much more incredible because they are literally on call for you. And after like 4.5 hours of pushing, my doctor was like, we need an intervention. And I was like, great. What do you feel comfortable with? She's like, a vacuum. I said, awesome. I don't want to be cut open. Let's go. So I love that. You could have that experience.
Yeah.
I love that. And I wish somebody told me that I could have that experience. I never felt empowered for my birth. And I'm so glad you felt you could do that.
And I think
because it makes the difference.
Being in my position where I take a holistic approach to health, which is very contradicting with conventional medicine, I already had a maybe bordering unhealthy criticism or skepticism about what's offered to you in the hospital. So I did a ton of research to prepare for the birth experience that I wanted. And I heard amazing birth stories about first-time moms having this experience. So not only could I apply my, holistic background to this situation, but I could also envision what was possible because I was having that opportunity. And I truly think that was a huge component. Like, everything I envisioned for my birth pretty much happened. I didn't use the birth pool like I imagined, but pretty much everything else went exactly as I thought it would. And I think that combo was so powerful. Like, having the tools to know where to look for information, how to avoid the information you don't want to hear, and really apply like that mindset component. And I was shocked, truly. I talked to all kinds of people in my life or in my, extended circle who attempted a home birth or a birth center birth, transferred to a hospital, ended up with a C-section or an
Yep.
epidural or whatever, they were trying to avoid. And so you start second guessing, like, oh shit, did I make the right decision? Am I gonna be okay? Am I gonna end up as one of these statistics? But if you prepare, you're mentally there, you've done everything you can physically to get yourself to that point, then all you can do is pray for the best outcome, and
Fair.
I felt so fortunate that I was able to have that experience, and that I had the tools to be able to get myself there. Because had I gone to a doctor, I never even saw an OBGYN. And had I,
wow,
pushing me in a different direction, there's all kinds of research out there that says, like, the second they start with the interventions, whether that be Pitocin or, membrane sweeps or whatever it is.
So true.
It will lead to a cascade of events in which you're going to end up with an epidural, and then you probably are going to end up with a C-section in the end. And I just wanted no part of that. And so I didn't feel like a hospital birth was for me. I didn't think I was going to get the care I wanted or have the experience I wanted. And yeah, just like, so thankful that I had the information that I had to be able to seek out a different experience.
Well, I think that's really important to highlight. I was told that because I had blood clots, it was best to have a hospital birth, because if something went wrong or I bled out, right, whatever.
Yeah.
And before I get into that, I have a friend of a friend who did 2 home births with both of her boys, and the first one was beautiful and seamless, and in the second one, her placenta went into sludge, so she had to go to the hospital. But you're midwives, so I want to highlight that, like, midwives aren't just some, underprepared, like, woo-woo thing. Like, they're trained to know what to look for, signs of distress, when to call, if you need an intervention. Like, that's what they're trained to do. So we should probably just, like, I just want to highlight that real quick. And then, like, for me, even if you are a quote unquote high risk pregnancy, like I was, like, I begged my doctor to go 40 weeks, and she would only let me go 39. And yeah, so I had to ask for like a week. She wanted to induce me at 38 weeks. And I was like, she's like, okay, I'll do you 38 weeks and 6 days. Based on the thing. I was like,
because you had blood clots, or?
So they didn't know how my body would respond to that. If I would bleed out, if I would have a stroke during childbirth or heart attack. Like, you can't gauge these things, and you're not going to run all the tests while you're pregnant. You're just not going to do it. So to protect the baby. So for me, I was like, I did not get to have what I think I was capable of having. Yeah. But equally, I set a firm boundary. And I have to say that I'm grateful that I was listened to, because a lot of women don't have that at all. Yeah. Like I said, I cannot. Literally, my husband left for a business trip like 5 days later. So I was home by myself with a newborn. Yeah. 5 days after. So you're just like, I'll drink to that. But you can't drink because you're nursing.
My husband, before he went back to work, and I'm still a little resentful that, like, I didn't get more time, and the time he was here, he's like, oh, hell yeah, I finally get some time off. Like, I'm going to do house projects. And I'm like,
hello.
What do you mean you're doing house projects? We got a project here. But, like, but it
just gave you the biggest project of your life.
But it's so much work. There's so much that you just, and when you don't know, especially when it's your first time, it's so hard to have these boundaries. Like, I wish I would have said then, like, no, I need more time with you. I need more help, but I didn't know. I was just like, oh, I'm in a daze, and same thing when you're in the hospital or when you're in labor in general. It's like, you're just trying to, like, do the best you can, and it's chaotic and all these opinions, and then you're looking to an expert to tell you what to do and how to manage it. And most of the time, those experts aren't going to give you the best advice, like the great thing about a midwife is they're the same as an OBGYN in terms of like knowledge about the body and the baby and all of these things. But the difference is they have a set of tools that are going to be much more natural, you know, much more supportive for the body. And then you've got an OBGYN whose default is surgery. Like, you know, that is their secondary set of skills. And so if you want to avoid that surgical stuff, like finding a midwife can be huge for you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The whole thing is so tough. Like it's, you know, and I have a friend who like electively had C-sections. And I always thought like, I just don't see how you could possibly do that if you understand what that can do to your body and you understand like how that affects even their microbiome and all of these things. Like I just never understood how that would be your primary choice. And then after giving, I was like, oh, I get it. I get it. It's so anxiety inducing. There's so many things that could go wrong. Like if that's what you need to feel comfortable and keep your stress levels low, then go for it. But, you know, but if you do want to try to fight for the best experience that you can have for yourself and your child, a midwife is absolutely the way to go. Even
I wish I would have known that.
What's that?
I wish I would have known that. Like, I wish I would have known, like, I could have had a midwife too, even as a heart.
And I think that's how, like my background really came into play because I had seen, you know, people in the holistic space doing the same thing. And it's like, okay, wow. Like, truly, when I found out I was pregnant, I just immediately thought, like, oh, of course I'll give birth in a hospital. It's my first one. You know, home births are for experienced people. And then, you know, and then you learn more and more and you're like, oh, actually, this is an opportunity that's available to me. I don't have to be experienced because I've got a midwife who is. And, you know, and birth is not a medical event. It is so natural. It's just like you having a period every month. It's like your body just knows what to do as long as it's got the tools. So that was my experience for sure. Like, shockingly, you know, my body just did what it needed to do.
Well, I like that you said that if you have the tools, it's a very natural experience. Like, it is. And to the caveat is like, certain bodies are built differently and da-da-da. So like my sister she's like 5 feet tall, never weighed over 100 pounds until she was pregnant. And her firstborn was like 9 pounds, 11 ounces. There was no way that child was coming out of her canal. Like just.
You'd be surprised. Like, I don't know.
In retrospect, yeah.
In my research, it's like your body is built to birth. You know, it is absolutely designed to do that. And your body will not grow too big of a baby, but there are things that you need to do in order to make that a possibility. You know, like maybe had she done and like a ton of hip stretches and yoga and really did all things to like soften your cervix and all of these things, then maybe you actually could have had that baby naturally. But the majority of doctors will say, we're anticipating that
too risky.
10+ pound baby. It's absolutely too risky. Your body will never push that out. And they really take the power away from the mom, you know, and make it seem like this is your only option, when in actuality, you have a ton of options. You have tons of options.
Yep. In retrospect, as her sister, like, I'm like, oh, you could have probably stood up for yourself. Because then she had 2 more kids and had C-sections, so like all 3. But, and to be fair, in our family, like, my cousin and I were the first ones to have birth naturally. From like our grandmothers, our mother, like everyone else had C-sections.
Even your grandma's C-sections, huh?
From what I understand, I could be wrong about that. Yeah. But nobody could tell you what to do to prepare for it because all they knew was you got cut open. And my sister was like, with her birth, she was premature. She was 13 weeks early. Supposed to be born in March, arrived in January. And so she was an emergency C-section. My mom was had like toxemia or something like that. Like,
Is that
not a good thing.
I've never heard of that.
Similar. It's similar. They had to cut her out, and it wasn't even like the horizontal cut. It was a vertical cut. Like the baby needed to come out now. Yeah. So she's like, baby out now. She spent like 3 months in. Oh crap! Wasn't a? I can't remember.
Emergency C-sections when they got to slice them vertically. I feel like.
Yeah. So she had like jaundice, all these things, and she didn't even have like hair or nails or anything like that. She's a fucking firecracker, I'll tell you that much. But it's like, oh my God, she is. So a lot of respect, but also like I take a step back now with all this knowledge, and I'm like, okay, was she misled leading, like having her kids? Like, I was misled having mine because we're trusting doctors because they're so much smarter than us. And you're like, well, maybe there's a better way to do this and still
That's
be
the
healthy.
hardest thing.
So,
Like, you just expect that these experts are going to know better than you do, but you really, really are so much more intelligent, innately intelligent than you would assume when it comes
especially to your own body.
Yeah.
Especially to your own body. Like, I identify with Serena Williams so much in this because of like my history with blood clots, but like she had her daughter and she was adamant after she delivered, and I believe she had a C-section. I can't remember off the top of my head. But she's like, something's not right. Something is not right in my body. So here you have this like elite athlete.
Probably with the best doctors you could find.
Exactly. And she even had to say to them, no, something's not right.
Yeah.
Check me out. And she ended up having blood clots postpartum, like right after she delivered her child. And had she not said something, and if you look at the statistics for Black women in particular, or women of color, like
higher death rates.
Higher death rates. And so I just had, it's one of those things where you're like, fuck, if she wasn't Serena Williams, would they have listened to her? Yeah. But like, thank God she spoke up for herself to be like, hey, something's not right. And I know, and of course, how in tune with her body does she need to be to play tennis and like show up every day on the course? So to me, I was like, yeah, doctors don't always know. They know a generality. They have a normalization. They have a bell curve.
Fight against your doctor. You like who the hell am I to fight with my doctor? But you absolutely have a lot of ability to be able to stand up for yourself and advocate for the kind of care and treatment and all of the things that you want. But it takes a lot of courage. And, if you don't have the research to back it up, if this is just like a feeling you have, then you can second guess yourself even more. And it's tough. It's really tough. Like I just can't even imagine going through this experience, pregnancy, motherhood, all of the things without the background that I have, because such a crapshoot with the care and the information you're given. It's like, take a prenatal and like try to do some walks. Like, no, that's fucking bullshit advice. Like, there's so much more you can do. There's so much more you can do to help yourself.
Absolutely. So, as a first-time mom, what advice would you offer new moms or pregnant women that we might not have discussed already?
I mean, aside from like, focusing on those foundations of health, because I truly think that is the best thing you can do for yourself, I would say aside from that, ignore the opinions of others. Everyone's got one. Everyone's got an opinion about, especially with me. Like, I did everything so alternative. Everyone had an opinion about what I was doing. Why aren't you taking prenatals? Why are you choosing to give birth at home? What if something happens? Like, you shouldn't be holding the baby so much. You should really be forcing him to be on the nipple. Like, everyone's got something to say. And in the end, what's best for you and your child. And, you can prepare as much as possible. You can read all the books. You can follow all the things. But in the end, it's like, you got to do what's best for you in your situation. Every situation, every person, every pregnancy is so different. So like, you just got to do what's best for you to get through, you know?
My husband's like funny. He'll be like, "How did you know to do that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just did it.
Yeah.
It felt right.
Yeah.
It felt organic. It felt natural." And he's like, "Oh, wow. I would have never thought of that."
Surprising things for me too was like just how quickly you develop this innate motherly kind of attitude. Like, you know, I just, I don't know what it is. I'm not like an over nurturer. I'm not like the most like lovey kind of person. All of a sudden that develops real quick the second that baby comes out, you know, or maybe even before. And
Samesies.
it's crazy. But
So, exactly. Yep. I can totally identify with that.
So trust yourself, mamas. Like, you know, you have so much more than you need already inside of you. And, you know, if you listen to conventional advice, they're going to tell you don't have what you need. You have to trust the experts. You have no idea what you're doing, you know, and you do. Like, you absolutely can tune into your body enough to know what you need, what your baby needs. And you don't need all of the shit that doctors will push on you in order to achieve that, you know?
Absolutely. Was there any good insight that you received from people? Loaded question.
So I feel like this was interesting for me because I was doing things so differently. I never knew anyone in my life who had great birth stories or all that positive of experiences. So I didn't reach out for that kind of information or, you know, insight or whatever. So for me, it was more about searching externally for how to have the experience I wanted, you know? So I would say, there are probably like 3 main things that really helped give me that insight. One was a book called Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a very popular midwife in Tennessee. She has some questionable beliefs, but when it comes to midwifery, she is incredible. Like, she's been doing this for so long. She knows all the things. And so this book is all about all of these different birth stories. A lot of them are first time moms.
Oh, wow.
Repeat, and they're all like home birth, natural, all kinds of things. So I feel like I dog-eared every page in that book because I feel like every story just gave me so much insight into how to have the experience I wanted, you know, just even like positioning during labor and how, you know, when you put your knees in and your feet out when you're on all fours, all of a sudden your whole pelvis opens up more. Like, a doctor's not going to fucking tell you that, you know. I got that out of a book, you know, stuff like that. Like,
wow.
There's a girl on YouTube who I followed a lot of her videos. She's really young too, which is amazing, but her thing is called Built to Birth. She had this one video of like breathing techniques for labor. I use that breathing technique throughout my entire labor, and never once was I like, oh, I need an epidural. I need something for this pain. I was like, I can do this. I can breathe through this. And I did, you know what I mean? So I would say, those 2 were super helpful for me. What
about your yoga practice? I feel like you have a good yoga practice too, don't you?
That was super helpful for sure. And I think just having that like hip flexibility, you know, stuff like that, core strength, that connection to my body and to my breath, that certainly helped. But I wouldn't say that gave me like any insight into pregnancy or, you know, delivery or any of that stuff.
It's an added layer.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, certainly helpful. We took a Bradley method class, which already reinforced a lot of what I knew, but more so really helped my husband in terms of like how he can support me and kind of coach me through the birth process, because So I feel like those were pretty helpful. And yeah, just birth stories, I would say, like positive birth stories that show the kind of experience that you want to have so that you know it's possible for you. I think, those were big ones for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we didn't know we needed to know? I think you've got some good nuggets, that's for sure.
A home birth is possible for you your first time if that's what you want. Nutrition will absolutely help you every step of the way. If your doctor is telling you something that goes against what you believe, seek out a second opinion or third or fourth. There was one documentary that I watched called The Business of Being Born. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. I've never watched it.
Oh, highly recommend if you can. I'll see if I can find the link and send it to you because it's ridiculously hard to find on the internet. It's like, I don't want to say scrubbed, but almost, and it's all about how these cascade of interventions will lead to a C-section, epidural, all the things, all the reasons for it, how this became a common practice in the medical field, and it is eye-opening, shockingly eye-opening.
I've been wanting to watch it. I just haven't made the time.
Yeah. And I'm glad I saw this before giving birth because, I had already experienced a birth. I witnessed my sister deliver. And so I kind of knew all of the things that go into a conventional delivery, and I knew that's not what I wanted. And this documentary really, I feel like, helped me understand, okay, this is how it will typically work in a conventional setting, and how you can kind of seek out a different experience.
Ooh.
Don't know, you need to know yourself. There's just so many things.
Good stuff.
Just do the best you can.
Good stuff.
Yourself, truly, make yourself your number one priority. Your physical and mental health are so crucial to a good pregnancy, to a good delivery, to a good recovery. And it's so easy to put yourself on the back burner when you're thinking about a child and nesting and how are you going to financially support this? And, as much as you can, try to set that stuff on the back burner because your mental and physical health is number one.
I think that's a really good advice.
It's tough, man. I would say in general, just do your research as much as you can. A doctor is not going to point you in the right direction. So if you can seek out alternative methods of care, you might be better off.
Yeah, just have the juxtaposition of perspectives. That's helpful. Yeah. For sure.
Obviously, there's great doctors out there, and if you can find a doctor who will who prioritizes vaginal birth or, what is really encouraging of that kind of stuff, you feel listens to you, all that's fantastic. If you feel like that doctor is overriding you, not listening to you, not giving you what you need, absolutely seek out something different, whether it be a different doctor or a different, professional altogether. There's so much you can do to advocate for yourself that just don't encourage.
I think that's really just right there. Advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
You got to. No one else is going to do it. Well, this has been a great chat, Lauren. Thank you so much for sharing everything about your new motherhood life. And
thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, always. I love it. I love chatting with you.
It's been a while.
What? I'm always looking for angles. You know that. Well, I'm the mom who knows that. My name is Brianna. This is Lauren Worley for LA Sand Wellness. She is a functional nutritionist. She has not only shared her birth journey with us and her inception into motherhood, but we also have other podcasts from her about her nutritional journey and her profession. So you can check those out too. But until next time, have fun learning all the things you didn't know you needed to know.